Hey everybody, how you doing? Jason Stock's back in the house, aka Sunnyvale Reject, with a short little video for my friends and family. And I hope you know by now when I say friends and family, I mean it. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've had a rough 2 weeks. In fact, I took off Thursday and Friday at school because it's just unbearable sometimes. You know, it's 30 different personalities against me, and think about it, they all have phones and they're all preoccupied, and you got to get them off their phones, get them to focus and listen to you for 50 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half, and it's very, very difficult. Even though I love those kids, I don't know, today's one of those days where you want to put a little whiskey in your coffee, if you know what I'm saying. Because I'm already starting to go, starting to dread going to work tomorrow, and that's not good. When you start to dread your job, it's time to make a change. And even though I feel like I'm doing God's work, it might be time for a change. But anyway, I wanted to update you guys on my reading lists and how they're going, and I got to talk to you about a book that I just kind of reread out of the blue that made a serious impact on me. So I just want to show you the few books that I've been reading, over the last couple of months, let's say, and talk a little bit about them, and then show you the books that I've still got to read for 2024, and then I want to show you the book that I just read in the last 6 or so days that made the impact on me and made me want to reread every book by this author. Check it out. Okay, so I just finished Christopher Pike's Whisper of Death. I've heard great, wonderful things about this from Cameron Chaney, from my boy Zach over at Shady Side Library. And while I'm talking about Zach, you are the man. Thank you so much for these awesome ass bookmarks and the cool ass handwritten letter. Go Cowboys is right. Here's something else we have in common. The quarterback for the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, is from Mississippi, and I'm a Mississippi boy, so there you go. Go Cowboys, go Zach. And if you guys love books or know people that love books, pick yourself up a couple of these bookmarks. They're handmade, they're awesome, and whoever you give them to will really appreciate them. But back to Whisper of Death. This book begins with two characters, Roxanne and Pepper, on their way to get an abortion after basically a one-night stand. They care about each other, but Pepper doesn't want to keep the baby, and Roxanne kind of wants to keep Pepper happy. She doesn't want to lose him, but she has second thoughts about losing the baby. And what ensues after they leave the abortion clinic, and I think it's in Salem, and they're headed back home, they start to realize that nobody's there. Their parents aren't there. None of their friends and family are there. Nobody's there. The cities, the houses, the schools, the shops, they're all vacant, right? But they do end up coming across a few more friends from their schools, and they start to tell a story about a girl that used to go to school with them who wrote stories, and those stories are starting to come true. The end, the twist at the end is just incredible. It really is incredible. I really love this, and I've read, a handful of Christopher Pike's books. I haven't liked them all, but everybody said this was the best. This is a great book. It's fascinating, really. I mean, the twists and turns, you really don't know what's going on until the very, very end, but this has encouraged me enough to read more Christopher Pike, and, I think what everybody says about Pike is true. Takes it up a notch from, say, an R.L. Stein or a Fear Street. All the people had vanished. Roxanne and Pepper are a teenage couple with problems, ain't they all? They leave their small town for a weekend to try and solve them. They don't really succeed, and when they return home, they find their town empty. Just like I said. What happens? I know you want to know. You got to read the book, and you'll love it. I finished this little book the other day, and it was just a Halloween read. By the way, did you guys read some spooky books? Did you watch some amazing, scary movies for Halloween? Did you get in the spirit? Did you spook the shit out of some little kids knocking on your door? We did. We also had a party, and it was cool. All of our neighbors came, but this was nothing. This was an easy read. I read it in like 2 hours, and I like these. They're like little filler books for me. What Goosebumps? What else you got? Monster Street. Bone Chillers, Dead Time Stories. They're all little filler books. They're fun and spooky, but they don't really have a whole lot of substance, not a lot of depth, and they are exactly what they are. A tide me over book, but I still like being scared and spooked for Halloween, and this did the trick. I also finished my Monster Street. That's a 4-book series. I read this book the day before Halloween. I really enjoyed it. All of these books are really good. J.H. Reynolds, if you're out there, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Write more books. They're increasing in popularity. They're a little bit, I don't know if they're spookier than a Goosebumps book. I tend to think they're a little bit more serious, and they're put into a little bit more serious situations, these characters, and they're made to work themselves out of it. And there's some sacrifice made on their parts. So if you're looking for something light and kind of spooky but won't keep you up at night, Monster Street. Give it a shot. 4 books to choose from. I am just about to finish this book, The Right Hand of Evil. I'm just about to finish it. I love John Saul. I really do. You've heard me talk about The Unloved so much that I might not spend a lot of time on it, but I love John Saul's work, and I do understand now when everybody's talking about it's a slow burn. But what he does is build up interest and concern, and by the time these characters are put into the situations that they're made to work themselves out of, you will care about them. You will have a vested interest in how things turn out. And though they're a slow burn, I call it building story. I mean, he's putting up histories. He's building family trees. I mean, he's putting a lot of effort and time into dialogue and setting. John Saul is a wonderful, wonderful writer. I think he's retired now, but still living. And a lot of his books could be considered YA because they're always young protagonists. 14 and 12 or 16 and 12. And I say that because it's always an older brother, an older sister, but they always have a younger sibling. Their parents are there, but one of them is, let's just say, on the fritz, and they're thinking about leaving, for example. Family erosion, if you will. But there's always a familiar problem that they're also working out as they're working out the other main issue of the book, right? And The Unloved and The Right Hand of Evil both start because a family member has inherited a house in a different town, and one was in Colorado. I think that was Creature actually was in Colorado. The Unloved was South Carolina. The Right Hand of Evil is Louisiana. Cities with, old architecture, Spanish moss, old cemeteries, and so the settings are spooky and almost a character themselves. I am really digging this and cannot wait to find out what happens. I've got like 8 pages left. I purposely put it off. And The Unloved, I know I've mentioned this a couple of times. I promise you this is the last time. But they move to this old spooky house. The son, right, moves back to Devereaux Island to be with his mother and his sister. His mother's a creepy ass old ass character that's like still dresses all extravagantly and remembers the days when they were the aristocracy in the city, but the town, the family has fallen out of favor. Their finances aren't what they used to be. Anyway, the son moves back into town, and there's a switch there. It stops kind of focusing on the son and focuses on the daughter, and I can't remember her name right now, but this is her on the cover. She got pregnant when she was younger, right? And the mother said, no, not in our family. You can't do that. You're going to ruin our reputation. So she pushed her daughter down the stairs, killed the baby, and disfigured her daughter forever. And her daughter was a brilliant dancer, and that was her whole life. But now she's crippled and can barely move. Let's just say that she got payback tenfold, baby. That's The Unloved. It's an incredible book. Really, really is. The Right Hand of Evil is good too, and I'm excited about the next John Saul book I read. Now, this one was a little bit out of character for me. It's called Catastrophe. You know what this book was doing for the last 10 years? Holding my TV up, balancing my TV. I have a little bookshelf upstairs, and I have, it's flat top, and I have 2 books holding the TV up on this side and 2 books holding it up on this side. And one of them is a Ireland travel guide. But anyway, as y'all know, we've just gone through a pretty difficult political situation. How do you guys think it turned out, man? Did the right man for the job win? What do you think? I'd love to hear it in the comments. And look, you can vent to me. I love you guys, and I was really looking forward to talking to you guys. Screw the video and the books and all that shit. Sometimes I just want to talk to you guys because I've had a really rough day, and I don't really have a whole lot of people I can talk to because you don't want to bring it home. But I hope everybody's feeling good. Take a deep breath. Screw what the media says, y'all. Care about your neighbors, the people in your families. Don't let any of this strife tear you apart. Just hope and pray and keep the faith, and let's keep this American train, which is a beautiful country, full of beautiful, industrious, wonderful people. Love your neighbor, love this country, and let's just get past all the bullshit. Let's make this country wonderful again and make all the people that are here proud to be here, Because the The future that this book outlined was fairly bleak, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but Obama was kind of a warmonger, and Liz Cheney definitely is, and Biden is or was, and Kamala Harris probably would have been the same thing, because that seems to be a Democratic notion, right? Think about the Republican leaders in the past that tried to stop war. What happened to them? Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln. Think about what happened to those guys for trying to, give some transparency to government goings on, stop war, to be diplomats, that kind of thing. Look what happened to them, because just remember this, war is big business. But this was called Catastrophe by Dick Morris and Eileen Gann, and I'll make a list of books that I want to read, and without fail, I veer and off the path, and I find books that I want to read, and I can't help it. I got to give them a shot. But the books on my list, I don't forget about, but I allow myself the freedom to add a book to my reading list that was, that I wasn't even thinking about, because when I did find out about it, something really grabbed my attention, and there was some deeper, profound, meaning to it that I think I'd be better or more enriched if I did read, So how Obama, Congress, and the special interests are transforming a slump into a crash, freedom into socialism, and a disaster into a catastrophe. Speaking of a catastrophe, think about what would have happened in the future if the Democrats had their way. And again, I'm not really that political. I just saw what they put one man through, and he continued to win. He did, and it gave me confidence in this country and in the truth, right? But the Democrats were going to legalize so many illegal citizens that it was going to forever turn swing states blue. Now, I know they have their agenda, and the Republicans do too, but we got to do things the right way. That kind of stuff is not sustainable. Letting 21 illegal immigrants in our country is just not sustainable. And don't ever forget, we have the right to speak the way we speak because we're Americans, because we live life, because we pay taxes, because none of us are innocent, none of our cultures at least. We all have those dark spots. And because we're American, we have free speech, right? And it's not the speech that we like to hear that we won't cancel. It's the shit that we don't want to hear that we won't cancel. But you can't be like that. You can't have a really informed opinion or rebuttal unless you understand where people are coming from. So hear the other side out and then form an opinion and respond appropriately and with etiquette, Dick Morris, Eileen McGann, Catastrophe. It was written in, holy shit, look, I didn't even notice this. Signed. I'll be damned. I had no idea. I looked right past that in paper. I'll be damned. That's good to know. Anyway, it's not a first print, it's a fourth print, but it's from 2009. So even in 2009, they've been talking like this, Okay, enough about that. Here's the books I told you I was going to read before 2024 was up, and here's where I stand. I got to read a Rick Altala book, and here's where I have to make a confession. I have read one, and I cannot remember right now off the top of my head if it was Cold Whisper or Shades of Night. But I'll find out, and I'll read the right book, don't worry. Help Wanted. This takes place in October. It's a beautiful, beautiful little point horror book, and a staple too by one of the more popular point horror writers, Richie Tankersley Cusick. I wanted to read it for Halloween because it took place in October, but I didn't get a chance to. But I will, baby. I will. I still got to read A Betrayal. I think that's a three book series. The Betrayal, The Secret, and The Burning from the sagas. So I got to read that. What else we got here? Okay. I got to read Bad Moonlight still. Looking forward to this one. I'm going to go somewhere for Thanksgiving. We're going to go on a little retreat, so maybe I'll take it with me. Got to read Hit and Run. Cameron Chaney said there is a very, very spooky scene with a dead body in a car. Got to read it. I've started this a couple of times, but haven't been able to read past like page 10. And it's not the book, it's me. Because I don't know if you're like me, but I like to pull books off the shelf, feel them, and look at everything about them. Every aspect of the cover, the page, the paper, the way they feel. Because I like to want to hold the book I'm reading for however long it takes me to read it. It's Arabis, and I'm going to read it, don't worry. And the last one, Cursed. I still haven't finished this yet. It was one of the first Fear Street books I got when I got into Fear Street, and I can't wait to read it because you just breeze right through these. And while there might not be a lot of depth, they're just fun books. And sometimes you just want to be entertained. That's it. Okay, y'all. Last book. Did y'all see my Philip K. Dick collection video 8 or so days ago? I hope so. If not, please go back and check it out because Philip K. Dick was one of the preeminent authors of this of the 20th century, regardless of the genre he may have wrote in. This is Philip K. Dick's Valis, and after doing my video, I told y'all that I was going to reread everything that Philip K. Dick, along with some other authors, wrote, and I just held on to this for a while because I was thinking about not collecting it because it got some stains on it, and I was like, maybe I should get a better copy, and I was like, no, I'll read this copy and then get rid of it and just make some space on my shelf. But this was published in 1981, but the event that caused it all took place in 1974, where Philip K. Dick, he was involved in religion all of his life, especially Gnostic Christianity, Buddhism. He read the Cabal, I'm sure. But he was always seeking for the creator and wondering, let's just say, if there's no culture in California, for example, and it's all trash, somebody had to create it, then why would a creator create something like that, And there's that ongoing debate always about whether or not God is flesh and blood or a spiritual being. When you see the things that we go through in life, you'd have to say that it makes sense that he'd be more flesh and blood with hopes and desires and fears and sadness and madness like humans go through. And maybe that's why we go through it, is because we're more like God than we would like to admit. Maybe God's more like us, and he's not omnipotent or omniscient or omnipresent or any of those things. Maybe he's just been around so long he knows what's going to happen, and maybe he comes from a different planet and he lives longer. Who knows? I don't know, but a lot of bad stuff happens, and if there's a God and we're the only planet with life on it, shouldn't you just be able to snap your fingers and fix things? I know that'll get some of us into the free will argument, but is free will an illusion, or does it exist? But Valis Bridges, Dick's older work, which was mainstream novels, none of those mainstream novels were published in his lifetime, with his science fiction work. And his science fiction work really got popular and blew up. But he was, a very sensitive man, but also very proud of his work, which sometimes can be hard to reconcile because I'm like that. I'm an independent writer. Blame for us and laughing is forever. I'm independent, but I studied literature my entire life and I lived it long before I committed it to paper. So I know that my books stand up there with the best of the best. And that's not being arrogant. That's being confident. Like an athlete, I've seen this my whole life. I'm going to win an award one day. I'm going to be respected and maybe taught in college. And when it happens, it won't be a surprise because I've fought for it my whole life, and I've earned it. He was very proud of his work, and he wanted to be at the big bookstores, beautiful woman on his arm, signing autographs, but it never really happened. This is an exploratory look into all of his wanderings on Christianity, but also you've got this character, horse lover Fat, which it might be a Greek rendition of his name, because I think Philip means lover of horses and Dick means fat, and that it might be in German actually, but there is a correlation there. And Dick is in his books a lot. He's the narrator in this book, and with Dick and Horse Lover Flat's dialogue, they work through these ideas like the Greek philosophers did, and it's a really, really great book, but it's chaotic at times because Dick dealt with the nature of reality and multiple realities, so you're not really sure all the time what's going on in their head and what's going on for real. But it's darkly funny and it's painful at times, as all good books should be, But I heard this referred to as a brave mistake, that it was ambitious, very ambitious, and he tried to extol his exegesis in a few books. Really, this is part of a trilogy with the Divine Invasion and the Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, I think. There might have been another book that was going to be included, but I don't know if it was necessarily achieved or not, but I do know that this is a serious book that reads more like Dostoevsky than anything else. I don't even know if I'd call it science fiction, not necessarily mainstream either, and more than just a narrative. So I'll let you be the judge of that, but I wouldn't start out with this. I'd read Radial Free Abelmuth first and get some foundation for this right here, but you will be intrigued. The characters are funny and you hurt for them, you feel for them, and he brings up a lot of the questions that we all ask ourselves. Does God exist? Where is he or she? What's our purpose? My purpose right now is to shut the hell up, leave you guys alone. And I hope very much that you guys have a wonderful day, that you all have all the things you need to be happy and productive. That's it. I'm shutting up. I love you. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay cool and never stop reading.